Welcome to Tea with TPS. Today, our distinguished guest is someone who can be described as a man for all seasons in Kerala. He was a model IPS officer, rose to the level of the police chief of Kerala, and has maintained his integrity and efficiency throughout. But even after he left the police service, he is sought after for any crisis that takes place in Kerala. He is widely liked, widely respected, and he is sought after for all kinds of jobs that arise in Kerala. I think there is no party discrimination. He has worked with different governments. He has held a national sports tournament with great efficiency. And at the moment, he is also in the field of health. He is the executive director of the Pushpagiri Hospital. Just 48 hours ago, he was given an award by the Medical Association, Indian Medical Association, for the work he has done, specifically for COVID and also generally in the field of health. So from police to health, there is very many areas in Jacob Punnoose has excelled. I'm very grateful to him that he has joined us today for a freewheeling conversation on what is happening around in Kerala, in India, and the world. Welcome, Jacob. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, sir. Such words coming from you, it's really an honor, sir.
That is nothing unusual for you to hear. I'm sure about that.
No, sir, for a person of your stature, it is really a great honor.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on this program. Well, let us start with the biggest crisis that we are facing today all over the world, and definitely a frightening situation in the United States. But Kerala seems to be slowly moving towards normalcy. At least that is the impression one gets every evening when you hear the chief minister speaking. He is talking of tapering off. At the same time, he keeps warning us of a second wave or a third wave as it has happened in Europe. So it's a very gloomy prospect, except for the number of vaccines which seem to be coming. And looking at Kerala's performance, you know very well that at one time in the early stages, we are considered a model. Many foreign newspapers and magazines spoke about the Kerala model. But unfortunately, after that, we rather fell deeply into the same kind of situation that the rest of the world and rest of the country faced. And now we are recovering. So what is your own assessment? You have been involved with policy, you have been involved with the various activities of the government. And what is your present mood and present expectation? Is it optimistic?
It is cautiously optimistic, I must say, sir. Cautiously optimistic. Because unlike the United States, which got a shock, actually the pandemic started in China in early December. Till March, nobody was aware of its dangers, and therefore those nations which took on the onslaught in March, they had it in a very, very grave manner. So America, Britain, France, Europe, several countries fall into that category. Because these are countries in which large number of Chinese visitors come, large number of people with Chinese origin reside, and therefore, for sure, without any knowledge of the virus, the persons who may have been infected with the virus must have been very great. So they got the shock of their lives when in March it broke out there. So that way, India had much less exposure to Chinese visitors and Kerala far less. And because of the experience of other countries, we had a good fortune to take it seriously right from the word go. That is, as soon as the cases were reported, we were very vigilant, and therefore we were very successful in containing the initial spread.
Although we were the first death occurred in Kerala, someone who came from Wuhan, right?
First death occurred. No death occurred in Kerala because 3 medical students had come from Wuhan in January last week, and those 3 persons, when they developed the symptoms, they were very alert and they went to the Thrissur hospital and reported themselves. At that point of time, because of the great dangers involved, the government of Kerala, the Department of Kerala, took it very seriously and they enforced protocol right on January 30th. And that was a very early step.
None of them died there. None of them died among those people.
None of them died. None of them died. And the first person to die was in late March and not in January. But after that, in my own home place, Rani, I belong to Rani.
Yes.
Yeah, an Italian family came there on a visit. And
Including a 91-year-old man, right?
Yeah, 91-year-old man was their father and father-in-law.
Right. And he recovered.
Right. Yeah, he belongs to my village.
I see.
Diagnosed by primary health center doctors in Rani Primary Health Center. I think they are the real heroes. Those doctors who, without ever having heard of the RT-PCR test, without any facility, just by clinical diagnosis, diagnosed that these people had COVID, and they were accurate. The guess was right, and immediately the health minister herself rushed to Rani and made all the arrangements. And after that, on March 24 itself, even before Kerala had 100 cases and no deaths, in fact, even before Kerala had only 100 cases, we went in for a lockdown. And therefore, as I said earlier, before the spread could happen in Kerala, we enforced a lockdown, and therefore, in the initial 4 months, we were extremely successful. We were right at the top of the world. No, we were better than New Zealand at one time. Can we believe it? In May, if you take the statistics, May 15th, we were far better than New Zealand. My son is there, so I used to follow the New Zealand statistics. So we were far better. But then where we got into problem was, our population is very much dependent on Bangalore, Chennai, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra for essential supplies.
Right.
As a police officer, I know every day 3,000 trucks coming from these different states into Kerala to keep us supplied with our essential vegetables and essential articles. Even on several things that you use, most of them are not produced in Kerala. All these things come from outside, and they come through trucks. And they came to highly infected areas in our neighboring districts, in other states.
Right.
There is no way in which you can check for a virus at the border. So they came in the vegetables, they came in the plantain, bananas that came, the vegetables that came, the goods
that is when there was a surge. But didn't it get worse when the people started coming from the Gulf and from other parts of India?
I don't think so, sir, because if you know about a danger, you can always arm yourself against the danger. And since we knew that there was spread in UAE, and the persons from UAE or abroad, they always come to some airport or the other. And therefore, their point of touching Kerala was very well known. And at the point of disembarkation itself, they could be watched, they could be guided, they could be quarantined, and their quarantines followed up. But when it comes to goods traffic from other states, it is impossible to find out at which point, where, in what manner a particular item reached.
So what you are saying, Jacob, is contrary to the general impression. The general impression is that the surge came when our friends came back from the Gulf and also from other cities of India. That is the impression I had, but what you are saying is somewhat different.
Sir, other cities of India may be partially true, sir. But abroad, we can rule them out. They are innocent. Our Narais brethren are innocent of this. Because they came after their whereabouts being known to the government. They were tested right at the time they came to the airport. They were tested, they were quarantined, and therefore they spread from those people were very limited. You can go through the statistics. But this is not true about people living in other states, right across at Delhi, or right at Cape Comorin, right across in Mysore district, or in Kodagu district, or in Mangalore. Because the contact...
Tamil Nadu was also a hotspot, wasn't it?
No, Tamil Nadu was a hotspot. At one point of time, sir, Kerala had just 4,000 cases and Tamil Nadu had 400,000. So that's a difference. And Karnataka also had almost 150,000 and Kerala had 4,000. So a virus or infected people unknown to themselves coming into Kerala, having a contact with a Kerala citizen could not be ruled out. And hundreds of them came as truck drivers. That's why I stress the trucks. 3,000 trucks a day means 3,000 or 7,000 truck employees.
Right.
Also, then trains which moving. So all this, so we got gradually infected. I think in the months of May and June, and it broke in July. In Kerala, the onset was about 4 months delayed compared to other parts of India. And that's why we find that now Kerala is peaking in October. Whereas parts of India peaked in April, May. So that 4 months phase difference is there in Kerala's onset. That's what my statistical analysis shows. Though, as you rightly said, sir, I might be in a minority of one.
That's why these views are important. But now, do you think this can be managed?
Sir,
the trend now is optimistic, even before the vaccine arrives.
Sir, I must be optimistic in this, sir, because I travel across the Central Travancore quite a bit in connection with my assignment in that hospital. So once a week I travel 300 kilometers within Kerala, and I find I'm yet to find one person without a mask on the road between Trivandrum and Tiruvalla or Kottayam.
No followers of Trump.
No. They are all well masked. So whether they wear the mask correctly or whether they follow hygienic prescriptions on correct mask use, these are matters of debate. But probably they may not be. But since everybody is wearing masks, the rate of control, the rate of spread, as well as the volume of the initial infection load, what they call the virus load in the initial contact, that is much less in Kerala, even if there is a spread. So I think that we will not be able to eliminate COVID, but we will be able to contain it within manageable limits. There won't be a run on the hospitals. There won't be a shortage of beds. These things will be able to manage because 99% of the people are now voluntarily wearing masks, using sanitizers, using soap. I wish we had some statistics on soap sales in Kerala in the last 6 months.
Oh, it must have gone dramatically up.
Nobody has that kind of statistics.
And new brands are coming, new models are coming. So that, of course, is very natural and normal. Tell me about the role of the police in all this. How much did they have to exert themselves? Police force is inadequate in any case, in any state, any part of India.
Sure.
But this was an extra burden on them. And they had to manage a lot of things. So how did they cope with it? Were you happy with that? Or was it a strain on the police force?
Sir, as a former state police chief, I am extremely proud of Kerala police in what they have done to Kerala, in Kerala. They have done in Kerala during these COVID times.
Right.
Because on March 24th, COVID was a total stranger. The virus was a stranger to our medical community, to our general society, to our politicians, to our administrators, and to the policemen. Everybody is after us, and nobody knew what exactly to do. And therefore, when we decided that we will go in for the enforcement of a lockdown, we were actually groping in the dark.
Right.
We knew how to do it.
How to enforce it? How much discipline will you be able to enforce?
This policeman, Kerala, as far as police enforcement goes, is a very difficult area to manage. I don't think even in the United States we'll find such a rights-conscious society. You will not find such media penetration into every nook and corner of even the most remote village. So, with high degree of media penetration, with such high right consciousness, and multiplicity of political parties, trade unions, and different interest groups, very actively articulating about every matter in society, enforcing a behavioral control, enforcing a law is easy. But in COVID, the matter went beyond enforcing a law, like do not beat each other, do not kill. That's law. But here in COVID, the matter went beyond that. You have to modify public behavior. This is not stand on the road. You have to keep a distance of 2 meters from your brother. You cannot go and shop as you used to do earlier.
And also controlling the traffic. Not being allowed to.
You have to wear a mask. See, all these things. And then people have to be... Initially, the lockdown, people had to be advised to be in their homes. And at the same time, every emergency had to be catered for. This is a difficult business. Don't come out of your house. But what happens if somebody is hungry? There are about 4 to 5 lakh senior citizens in Kerala who live alone. Who will address their needs? Who will bring things to them? There are several persons who are dialysis patients. There are people who might have heart attacks. See, these kind of emergencies are also to be attended to while ensuring that people remain at home. Now, this was a difficult choice. And in the initial 50 days of lockdown enforcement, I found Kerala police rose to the occasion as one man, despite the severe shortage of manpower, despite the lack of resources. They put in great effort, often sleepless nights, and the sun and the heat of the sun.
Right.
So in March and April, the sun is at its hottest in Kerala.
But that's supposed to be helpful to control the virus, though.
Yeah, that is perhaps the virus is scared of the sun. But policemen
People were not.
Policemen have to bear the brunt of the
heat
also. But despite that, they did extraordinarily well in making people stay at home, enforcing mask restrictions, enforcing distancing rules, educating them in a new normals of public intercourse. All this police were able to do in the first 60, 70 days. And I personally feel that we are reaping the benefits of that at this juncture.
And also, would you agree with me that there were very few cases of police excesses in this particular case?
Oh, that's what surprised me remarkably, because when such widespread enforcement on a totally unfamiliar matter goes on among 35 million people, there are bound to be very, very serious conflicts with articulate groups. There were several conflict situations.
Yes.
On the whole, it was managed without anybody being beaten black and blue, without anybody bringing serious allegations against police for the torture activities or anything like that. On the whole, police acquitted themselves well.
But a parallel development, which may not be related to this, is that during the lockdown and after, somehow we are hearing more reports about crime, all kinds of crime. Not only criminal activities, but also all kinds of irregularities, all kinds of cheating incidents, etc. Is that because the police was diverted into health activities that this happened? Or this happened independently? Or has it not increased during this period? What is the statistics?
Statistically, if you can go to the Kerala Police website, we find such crimes have not, the volume of crimes has not gone up.
Is that so? Okay.
In absolute terms, the volume of reported crimes have not gone up. That's because the measure of human interactions between each other, that has come down. Because the level of contacts between human beings was much less. And crime is actually proportional to the level of human interactions that take place. But one area of crime, that is cyber, digital, in that area, crimes have gone up because now most of the interactions, just like this interview,
Sitting at home.
just like this interview, most of the interactions have become digital.
Virtual.
Crime in cyberspace has gone up, like child pornography, for example. Kerala police has launched a vigorous drive on that, and also cheating, digital, because the ordinary cheat can't meet you face to face to cheat you, so
Right.
stuck on the digital space. So this kind of things through the digital space, that is reported more during the lockdown, and even now that's being. Just now, I received a message that from some Sophie Hints in United States that $39 million have been credited to my account. I need only press that. Yes,
That's an old Nigerian scam.
So people try their luck anyway. So that kind of thing is going on. Otherwise, I find people have generally because for policing, social distancing is good, because if you are at arm's length, you are out of harm's way also. So that's the advantage. So people keep a distance from each other. Even if you beat somebody, he can't get beaten, no, because staying 2 meters away.
Right. But the one other pandemic that came during this period is what we witness every day. The gold smuggling case, which has diplomatic implications, and very senior officials being involved. And how did it play against this particular? One would have thought that when this happens, there will be a lull on that front. But unfortunately, this grew during this period, and as a result, political conflicts increased. And then you had demonstrations and others which were not following any kind of protocol. And so that was a parallel kind of a problem. As it is, it would have been a great issue of morality, of discipline of the civil service, politicians and the civil servants, all the old problems. But happening at this time made it appear worse, or was it like any other scandal of the kind, and this got only heightened by the fact that more reports were coming on this? What is your assessment on that?
My feeling, I am ashamed of the scandal, both as a civil servant, as a police chief, as a citizen of Kerala. I am ashamed of the scandal. So, because such a thing should not have happened. The senior officers should not have been party to such goings on, etc. Anyway, the matter is under investigation, so I do not comment on that. But I noticed a paradox. The paradox is that Kerala, at no time in the last 40 years within my memory, the political animosity between political parties have never been so great. Now it is the political space. There is so much of venomous accusations, counter accusations. The political space is now really filled with a lot of anger and venom. But at the same time, on the public health front, there is a lot of commonality of thinking, and people are united in facing the COVID threat. So while COVID is a great uniting force, politics has become a great dividing force. So this is the paradox that we see in Kerala today. Even yesterday's events, day for yesterday's events, if you read the newspapers and listen to the channel discussions, even the animosity that permeates every single political issue, the acrimonious nature of the debates, the kind of language that is employed, all show a no holds barred attitude in political rivalry and attack against each other.
But that has something to do with the elections. Elections are coming.
Elections are also coming. So that is also there. That has vitiated the atmosphere considerably, and every scoring a point on every issue has become very important for political survival. So that way, our political space has is very troubled now.
But Jacob, we are not opening schools, we are not opening colleges, but then why should you have these local elections? What are we going to gain by that? Didn't you think at one point that this could be postponed?
Yeah, not much harm can result if these elections are put aside by 2 or 3 months. Initially, they postponed it by a month, I think. But then other considerations prevail that we have to have elections. We are very proud of our panchayats.
Of democracy. No, but what I'm saying is the democracy, etc., is okay. But by delaying it for a few months, it won't do us any harm. That is less important than having to open temples or open churches or open schools. Those are more necessary than to have an election of this kind. And that, to me, it appeared it was strange that we were entering into this kind of a question, because already I am myself seeing my gates were never opened for the last several months. But now every day we have to open the gates for the politicians.
Yeah, they will come in, and because of this,
they have no restraints. They just walk in or press the bell, and so there is a difficulty arising in the kind of distancing that we are following. And this several months it will go on, then another election will come. So I don't know whether this is a wise thing to do.
Oh, you can put up a board there saying that my vote is for that candidate who never comes here.
That's a good idea. If you don't press the bell, you get my vote.
Yeah. Something like that, some notice you can put up there. But actually, you see, sir, the number of candidates in these elections are going to be over 1 lakh.
Yeah, they already registered 1 lakh candidates, yes.
100,000 candidates, for almost 40,000 or 30,000 positions. And that's good. So this is the most intensely fought election in Kerala. And perhaps we could have, from public health point of view, it would have been better to avoid an election.
I think so.
I'm not a judge of the political imperatives that guide these kind of decisions. Perhaps democracy will prevail over virus also. So this is
that we are seeing in the United States. We don't know what is more dangerous, virus or politics.
Yeah.
It's a really strange kind of thing.
You have to choose between.
In between, we also hear about terroristic tendencies, Keralites joining various terrorist outfits. We also hear about, religious conflicts. All these are also growing, or the statistics don't show any particular growth in that.
Kerala terrorism is now, I find it is about 2 decades old.
Yes, I remember you were the one who first highlighted it.
Yeah, when I started highlighting it in the late 90s, I was actually mocked at. Everybody made fun of me. And by the time I started saying it seriously, in fact, there are even written directions saying that all this is bungam. You are just making a story to increase the staff strength of the special branch. That is
all that happened.
I was.
Then you found Malayalis getting killed in Kashmir, didn't you?
Yeah, when Malayalis started getting killed in Kashmir, 4 Malayalis died in Kashmir. That was in 2008 October, if my memory is right. From 2008 October, the media never questioned the existence of potential for terror in Kerala. And now it's a reality. But the remarkable thing about which I am proud is the fact that Kerala remains the only state in this country which had never experienced a death due to a terrorist act in the past 2 decades. That's a remarkable record. It's a remarkable record. Now, there is a particular reason for that. The terrorism in Kerala is not homegrown. It is not. It does not arise due to any local issue rising in Kerala. Mostly, it has come from.
They are reacting to global development.
Global issues. Global issues.
Osama bin Laden and so on.
America doing something in Palestine. Iran and America are on opposite point of view, or some kind of political Islam, some liberation of some homeland somewhere. These are
Yeah.
highlighted. And not only that, more pertinently, sir, most of these people, most of the dramatis personae in this drama of terror, they have at some point of time, some point of time, been in Dubai or in some other place. They have
Right.
actually gone abroad and have been indoctrinated abroad. If there is any exception, they have gone to places like Bangalore or Hyderabad or Bombay and got into some kind of company which has indoctrinated them, brainwashed them, and turned them into terrorists. And therefore, their local activity in Kerala was minimal. And they have no sympathizers in Kerala, even within their communities. That is one special aspect of it. Even within their own community in Kerala, they don't have much support. But at the same time, they have now, in the last 4 years, what has happened is that now you don't have to come into contact with the terrorist outfit. You don't have to go out of Kerala. Because of the net, it is possible to remain in touch with some group which is based anywhere in the world. And much of the ISIS recruitment, etc., about which we hear, has been taking place by influencing people over the net, the secrecy of the dark web. People turned into terrorists because of some predilections they have, some kind of thought process they undergo. Many of them get by offer of a job also. Many people are offered jobs abroad, and many people, the best way to attract anybody in Kerala is to offer them a job abroad.
And there is a culture of people going abroad, particularly to the Middle East, for jobs. And therefore, if somebody just left for the Gulf, it is presumed that he has gone for a job. In fact, some of them may have gone for a job, in fact, thinking that without realizing it is a terrorist act that they were getting into. And that also may have been a factor, because unlike other states, we have this culture of young men leaving for the Gulf. And people will happily say, my son is in the Gulf, without realizing that he has joined the IS or any other terrorist outfit. And that may have been a factor. And also families were quite used to living alone, and that culture was already there. So all these must have contributed to this. At one time, I remember when Al-Qaeda was at its height, I used to say to our foreign interlocutors that India has a huge Muslim community, but never one in Al-Qaeda. I used to say it very proudly. No Al-Qaeda terrorist was identified as an Indian.
That's
but
true.
Now it is very different. Now the numbers have gone large. IS is less strong now, but still, when I catch an IS person, you will find an Indian there, and that is a sad part of it.
Sure, because many are fooled into joining them. That's what I presume. Many are cheated.
Yeah. No, in fact, IS, if you look at their websites, etc., you will get the impression, and I believe it was right, that the areas which they control, now they don't have that. When they had areas they controlled in Iraq and Syria, etc., they are very well administered. That was something that was very, very striking, because they had the facilities, they had housing, they had all facilities, etc. So it became somewhat of a promised land. And only after the Russians and others attacked these IS groups, etc., that has now changed. And they believe that IS has been contained to a certain extent, but it will always come back when the situation changes. So then you used to talk about the mafia. Has it disappeared?
Oh, mafia is stronger than ever, sir. Mafia has not disappeared. Because I remember, sir, I don't know whether you had come back to Kerala at that time. In 2006, I had made a statement at that time saying that the Kerala mafia is very strong, and their turnover per year is about 50,000 crores per year. Now it must have increased to, just like our public debt, it also must have gone up to at least fourfold. It must have gone. That is because, not because our people are bad, not because our morals are bad, but because our legal system is creating strains on supply of things that common people want. For example, house construction, you want sand. For your wetlands, you want to fill up your 5 cents of paddy land and convert it into homestead. You want the earth moved. So there are a lot of legislation regarding sand availability, earth availability. There are a lot of legislation regarding leveling of hills and things like that. Because of that, a lot of people rely on unlawful groups to do this for them. And that is the source of the mafia. For example, quarries. It is impossible to get a quarry license in the formal legal way. So a large number of illegal quarries exist. Their numbers are tremendous. Almost 2,000 illegal quarries exist in Kerala. So activity is gone because of the illegal quarries. Associated with illegal quarries is a big mafia. So sand mining also. Because in the last 25 years, the reverse sand mining is a prohibited activity and well regulated. But look,
so the mafia is something like a consortium of people, unofficial and not unrecognized consortia.
So if you have got an essential unlawful need, that need is fulfilled by the mafia. And mafia turns it into territories. In this particular area, we will operate. Other area, somebody else will operate. So mafia carves out jurisdictions for itself, and it's not. And in course of time, political parties, officials, everybody gets dragged into the sphere of influence of the mafia.
And the money gets exchanged.
The money gets exchanged. Corruption flourishes. All these things happen. So when we enact a legislation which affects a common need, that law must also specify how the common need will be discharged. If I want to build a house, where will I get the sand from? If I want to build a house, where will I get the stones from? So if I prohibit stone quarrying, if I prohibit sand quarrying and sand mining, and if you expect me to go houseless because I want to conform, you want me to conform to the law regarding sand mining and stone quarrying, I will not comply. The mafia will come. So you must provide the basic material in a specified way. Before you shut the usual course of supply. This is what is happening in Kerala. Not only in this, in several matters, this mafia is getting strong because there is no legal method of getting a thing that you need.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Isn't there some way of setting up establishments of that kind to deal with this in a legal manner? But that will be in violation of environmental law, etc. Is that the point?
Yeah. So environmental laws have been enacted, and therefore these laws are very stringent. But then, how do you solve a practical problem of house construction?
Well, there is this artificial sand and so many things are being developed now.
Sir, artificial sand is a product of quarrying, which is illegal.
Is that so? I see. It's not a chemical composition. I thought it was a chemical.
Yeah, sir. M sand is made by breaking granite into smaller pieces.
No, but for example, wood, cutting of trees, etc., has been lessened because of the artificial wood, hasn't it?
Artificial wood and aluminium and steel also.
Right. So similarly, something has to be found to substitute to these things, which does not cause environmental damage. I think that is probably the solution.
Yeah, that is true, sir. Because I have been arguing for it several times when I was in service. You have to say this is the replacement. This is the other course of action, and government will subsidize that. So that kind of tax incentives can be given. If I don't use wood in my house, if I don't use granite in my house, then I can be given a subsidy. I can go for a glass house like that. So that kind of encouragement is very much necessary if these mafias are to be prevented. So we were very successful with regard to the liquor mafia. So about 35 years back, the liquor mafia was very strong. But fortunately,
that is now because liquor is now legally available. Is that the reason?
So KSBC started, Kerala State Beverages Corporation made liquor plentifully available all over Kerala. And that was the end of the liquor mafia. So
then the consumption of alcohol went up.
No, sir, you can't drink Or you can drink more and more because you get it. How much can you take, sir? That's
No, but the figures are alarming, isn't it? One Christmas night, we drink 23 crores worth of alcohol.
Sir, but we are 3.5 crores worth of people.
Right? But half of them are women who don't drink.
we only, sir, I calculated, sir, we consume beverages corporation sales are 15,000 crores rupees per year for 3.5 crores airlines. Assuming that 2 crores are voters, others are children who can't drink. So on 2 crores of voters, it comes to only 7,000 rupees per year. So how many bottles can you get for 7,000 crores?
No, but how does it compare with other states in India?
Other states, they don't account for things as we do, sir. Just like our COVID statistics is much more than UP. We have 5.25 lakhs today, and UP has only 5 lakhs. So our statistics are better.
Well, so really we are not drinking as much as we are believed to be. Is that so?
Because there is a government monopoly on distribution of liquor, every drop of liquor sold gets accounted. When there is no government monopoly, as in other states, much of the liquor goes to seconds. That's the phrase. The phrase employed is seconds.
Right.
Unrecorded sales of liquor take place in several other states.
No, but during the lockdown, when all these facilities were closed, people were still drinking.
Oh, then they must have.
And that is what prompted people to open up again.
They must have started distillation in their houses.
Right. Homestead development.
But that used to be very common, sir, in the days of Arak. When Arak was available, this home distillation used to be very common. This Punnoose, for example, Punnoose in 1996 used to produce 10 million liters of Arak per day illegally. 10 million.
Right.
But that's not taking place now. That mafia has ended. Now it is mostly stone mafia in quarries and sand mafia with regard to our rivers. These two mafias are very, very active.
And then liquor consumption and the state's economy, there is a kind of linkage, right? Because people do say that if men after work a day, if he gets 1,000 rupees, unless he spends 400 rupees on liquor, the state does not get enough to give him a rise for 1 rupee. You know? So it's a kind of linkage which is very vicious. But practically it is so. If he doesn't drink, then the economy suffers. And he is not able to get the facilities which normally he should get. So it has become a kind of fueling of the economy. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, at least the government's coffers gets filled, the more the people drink.
People drink. That's right.
Government coffers. I don't know. The ultimate analysis whether it is good for the economy as a whole, I really do not know. But it's good for the government. That much I can say.
But good for the government, then the government is able to make welfare measures, rice for 1 rupee or kerosene on ration shops, and that comes out of the government coffers. Yeah, so the family which is deprived of the 400 rupees benefits it from indirectly.
But the family, if the head of the household spends 400 rupees on liquor every day, it deprives children of mental peace at home, good education, good quality entertainment, all these things. The economic cost of that we never work out. Sir. That's why.
That's right. That we don't. That's the point. That's the point. We are looking in terms of immediate gains or immediate benefit.
Gains of government. But in a poor family, when the breadwinner earns 1,000 rupees a day and he sets apart 400 rupees for a bottle of rum, the tremendous adverse effect it has on the children and the wife. This has got very, very, very disastrous economic implications. So,
but what is the way out? We can't have the Gandhians everywhere.
No, sir. Make liquor cheaper, sir. The one bottle of rum actually costs only 20 rupees. So no family will destroy itself by drinking 20 rupees worth of liquor. The damage is done by raising the cost of liquor to unimaginably high levels so that the poor are impoverished by drinking while the rich are not. There's considerable discrimination in pricing.
And the rich people don't even buy locally. They always bring from abroad. That's never counted. That's never counted. So every 2 bottles that a person brings, all these travelers, not now, the happier days, that itself must have been a big import.
So the rich are not affected by drinking because the percentage of money they spend on liquor maybe 1% of their income, 2% of their income. But in a laborer's household, I have found that almost 30%, 40% of the laborer's income goes into liquor. And that is a recipe for disaster. So that we should avoid, and we should actually bring down the price of liquor. Give good quality liquor at very low price if you want to save the families of the lower income groups. So because the prohibition is an impossible policy. You can't.
It's not sustainable.
That will give rise to another bigger mafia.
Right. Well, lastly, about police reform. Do you think the state of affairs of the police, in terms of their welfare, in terms of salaries, etc., has been improving over the years?
Definitely, sir. In Kerala, for example, Kerala's policemen are the highest paid policemen in the country. They're the highest paid, in fact, in terms of scales of pay. Kerala's policemen are the highest. In terms of promotion opportunities also, Kerala's police constable who joins, he can now hope to retire at least as a sub-inspector, which is much better when I joined the force, where he could retire. He could hope to retire only as a constable. So
you told us the story of one person who started as a constable, ended as a constable.
Yeah.
That may be only in the police.
That's no longer the case now. Their conditions have improved. Insurance systems have come. Medical benefits have come. Their conditions of service, duty systems, these have improved. But policing, the nature of policing all over India needs to change. We have to change from the rural police mentality to people's police mentality. This is a drastic change that requires to happen. Kerala has gone better in that. Our success in fighting COVID also is primarily due to at least 20 years of experience with community policing.
Right.
We have been interacting with the community in schools like a student police cadet program or the Janamaitri policing program or the elder care program. So the local institutions are familiar with all these student communities, the panchayat level leaders, the old couples who are living alone. Police were already familiar with this earlier acquaintance with the disadvantaged people, as well as with opinion makers within the community, help them to enforce the COVID regulations and the resultant behavioral enforcement in a far more pleasanter manner than would have been necessary if they did not have that kind of earlier acquaintance. So
Jacob, I had some experience of police reform. I have not had a chance to talk to you about it. When we were in the National Security Advisory Board, some of us were asked to do a paper. Hormis Tarakan was there, and there were other very distinguished police officers. Then some of us as laymen also joined. And we worked for a whole year and produced what we thought was a very wise and very carefully written report. And finally, we were invited by Mr. Chidambaram, who was the Home Minister, and great prodding. Finally, he gave us a few minutes and we presented. And he looked at it and said, first thing he said, there is nothing new in it. He set it aside. And then he started looking at the former DGPs and said, what did you do when you were DGPs? How many posts were you filled by you? How many times did you ask your government to fill the posts of police officers and policemen in the country? Because they didn't have much to say, they were quiet. He said, that is the problem. There is no other problem. Don't do any reform. Fill the vacancies. Fill the officers, fill this thing. Police will be all right. What do you think of that formula?
At least I could have answered Mr. Chidambaram with great confidence, sir. When I retired, there was not a single vacancy in Kerala Police.
Oh, is that so?
Not only that, sir, the number of posts in the police, that had also significantly gone up during my career. When I joined the Kerala Police in 1977, after training in 75, in 77 there were only 19,000 policemen in Kerala as a whole, for a population of 2.5 crores of people. Now, for a population of 3.5, there are almost 65,000 policemen and home guards also. So this is the kind of change that has taken place in Kerala. So much of
But
this,
has it, in other states also?
other states also it has taken place. But what has happened is that much of the increase in posts have gone to armed police battalions and not to police stations. So, for example, many of these police stations in Andhra Pradesh, even today, have only 8 or 10 persons. So, though India as a whole has got 21 lakhs, 2.1 million policemen, out of which only less than 5 lakhs, less than half a million are in police stations. This is the difficulty in Kerala, the difficulty in India. Kerala is far better. Kerala, we have managed to put at least 55% of our total strength in police stations. In police stations, they attend to people's problems. Whereas, for example, in Delhi has got a force of 86,000 policemen. But its police stations have only 16,000. 100 police stations like that. So,
And what do they do? The rest, what do they do? They just roam around? Or?
they stand guard. If you walk along the streets of Delhi, you find several guards in all those bungalows. If you look at Bangalore,
The VIP protection.
Yeah. So many other duties are there, which has nothing to do with solving a citizen's problem. So that's why I said from the ruler-centered policing, we have to shift to people-centered policing. This is the real solution to India's policing worries. And because more people, more manpower, more resources are to be available to deliver policing as a service to at the doorstep of the citizen. This is the challenge. Police,
And also they have to be trained about human rights and so on, and no torture. All these are still distant dreams, aren't they?
Yeah,
The government I remember in the UN, we refused to sign the anti-torture convention for a long time. You must be aware of that.
sir.
And the excuse that we gave was the mental torture is not defined properly. But that was not the real reason. The real reason was that we were actually torturing people. But now we have signed it, but we have not ratified it still, I believe, because of this particular situation.
So we are in
But I have heard you saying that torture is unnecessary for solving cases. Is that so? Do you still hold that view?
I deeply hold the view. Torture will detect very few cases, but it will falsely detect a large number of cases. That's the danger of torture.
Yeah, people will confess for no reason.
People will that is, the number of people confessing to crimes they have not done will be much more than the number of people who confess to crimes they have done. This mismatch, this great danger is there in torture. So torture as an investigative tool is a real non-starter.
And you prefer scientific methods and so on, and questioning.
Sir, look at the recent investigations that are happening, sir. Because everything that you do, even this conversation that we are having, is recorded for posterity. So anything that we do. So our technology, science, the digital technology has evolved so much that scientific investigation is the only way out. You can respect human rights, you can have regard for truth, and you can be perfectly sure about what you are saying. And not the accused will be able to dispute what you are saying. So torture is absolute no. It does not have any benefit, which is much touted. Its advocates tout that it's very beneficial. No, nothing like that. It takes the investigation farther away from the truth. Then,
Okay, talking of current investigations, now there is a problem in the sense that too many central agencies are roaming around here. They were invited by the government, but a stage has reached when every national agency seems to be working here, and the government has the impression that this is a central intervention in the affairs of the state. Is it justifiable, that argument, or is it necessary for these agencies to work in order to find the truth in all these current allegations?
Sir, pursuit of truth has to be the first priority in any matter. What is the truth? People have a right to know the truth, and the truth must come out. But the pursuit of truth should not be tainted by political predilections or attitudes, either on the part of the investigating agency or on the part of the politicians who comment or who are on either side of the political spectrum. But important that every agency operates within its allotted space, because different agencies have their allotted space. For example, a particular agency may be competent to inquire into offences under a particular act. Another agency may be empowered under another act. So we cannot take legitimate objections to agencies confining to their legally ordained space. But if they infringe on the limitations imposed on them by law and trespass into waters into which they should not enter, then of course there is some justification in finding fault with them.
But who is the arbiter? Who is the arbiter in this? The central government?
Arbiter is the court, sir.
The courts, well, but that courts come later. Courts come later.
Sir, anybody who has got any complaint against an investigation can always move the court, the limit of the investigator. That is the current pattern. So, several agencies are investigating. Let them investigate within their legitimate spheres. But
like Narcotics Bureau, for example, deals only with narcotics. They don't deal with anything else. But there are overlapping cases like the CBI and the local vigilance. There is overlapping there.
Overlapping is inevitable, because for the criminal it is all one. One criminal, the criminal who commits the crime, he's not reading the book of.
He doesn't know which law he has violated.
He only is making money. In one continuous transaction, he may be breaking 8 laws, and these 8 laws may be
under 4 agencies.
Under 4 agencies. This is the difficulty that we are making. When I go abroad carrying a smuggled good, transferring money to bank account, and then using that money to pay a bribe. See, so many offences I have committed. My purpose is that I should have a greater bank balance.
Money.
But in the course of those transactions, I've committed at least 5 or 6 different types of offences.
But the tension developing between the center and the state, who will take care of that? Because that is what the atmosphere is like today. So somebody has to say this is center, this is state, or the courts will take care of it.
I think, sir, the courts will take care of it. Ultimately, the courts will rule. For example, day for yesterday, the Supreme Court has ruled that Section 6 of the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, CBI, that is the state government has got the right to withdraw CBI jurisdiction in the interest of federalism. So that's the court has upheld one section. At the same time, if a Narcotic Control Bureau investigation or a National Investigating Agency investigation or an enforcement directorate investigation, the courts are going to uphold the law on those matters.
The competence will be accepted.
Which are central laws. So the separation of powers, the union list, the state list, the concurrent list, these exist in the Constitution, and a detailed understanding and an acceptance of the limitations that is fundamental to running a federal structure.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Jacob. It has been a very interesting conversation, and you are a fund of knowledge, experience, and the ability to tell the truth. So I'm so glad that we had this opportunity to talk about some of these issues. And thank you very much for taking the time off. Hope you have a pleasant life and safe and be well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, sir.